Hi, I'm David with EV World News. We talk about electric vehicles, green energy, and the stock markets. I'm here today with our founder and chief editor, Bill Moore. How's it going today, Bill?
Hey, it's good. I'm going to do the interview to hold off not eating my bagel.
Oh man. Um,
Cream
yeah, well,
cheese and apricot jelly. The apricot jelly comes from orchards in France. That's how elite I am.
oh, you don't have some. What are the berries they only sell at IKEA? You don't have, there's a jam, lingonberry or something like that. It's the only place you can get it, you know. Or I'm sure there's other places you can get it, but there aren't many that you. That, anyways. All right, so we got a variety of topics today, and one of the
Oh
first
yeah.
ones we're going to discuss is about the Tesla Cybertruck. And oddly, and this is kind of will segue into some other things that we've got going on today, but the Cybertruck is now eligible for the $7,500 federal tax credit. Now, obviously, this is an $80,000 or less model Cybertruck, but they have enough American-made battery components that they qualify, and so it looks like it brings the price down to 72,490. So I guess the price is 79,990 on the Cybertruck. There's also an additional $1,000 military discount, and it's like, how many military people are buying one of these? Um, However, this is kind of interesting. The same article says, though, in Canada, the price for the Foundation Series Cyber Beast. Now, the Cyber Beast is not the model that's $80,000. It's an all-wheel drive one. The Cyber Beast is like a tri-motor, all that crazy speed. The price went up 11.5% and starts at about $182,000 Canadian. Yeah, but that's I don't know what the difference is between the U.S. dollar and the Canadian dollar, but I thought that was interesting because we keep hearing all this stuff about, hey, what's going to happen with the EV tax credits? Are they going away?
Yeah.
You know, and things like that. So I thought that was, you know, somewhat pertinent because we keep seeing more and more vehicles that are becoming eligible, and these manufacturers have spent money developing infrastructure and jobs in the United States to qualify
Yeah.
for these, and I don't want to see those go away. I mean, it's not fair to those manufacturers for putting in the money only to have a new administration come in and stomp on that. And they're not like unfairly cheating the workers is what the government's wanted. But you're always going to have changes from administration to administration. I even wonder, like with the loan program office, we had Jigger on here last week to talk about
Right.
what he did. Well, so under a new administration, will they all of a sudden start providing more money for oil and gas exploration? I mean, they weren't doing that during Biden.
Well, the guy that they just appointed as the Department of Energy, the head Secretary for Department of Energy, is a former oil executive whose specialty was in
Hmm.
fracking.
Hmm.
So what does that tell you?
Yeah, but I'm just saying, that doesn't mean, it means he understands energy, right? But it
Well,
could also mean he's going to
yeah.
have a leniency towards helping out companies in that space. But
Do they
you know
need that? Do they need that help though?
and
Did
that's
you
always a
see
big question.
when you see the amount of subsidies they get and tax breaks they get compared to, let's say, renewable energy, you know, they get plenty of help, plenty of
Oh,
help.
there's no question, no
So
question.
if Doge wants to take something on and look for some spending cuts, how about you take a look at all the tax break you're giving these guys?
Well, see, then he'd be accused of um, trying to increase the value of Tesla.
Oh,
Oh, he's going to get that regardless, though, right?
yeah.
So,
Well,
and so far, that's not working out. It's working out kind of, depends on what day. One day it's really like seesawing back and forth. It's like, oh, Tesla sales are down here. Tesla sales are down here. They're up somewhere else. And all
well,
these. What is it? There's
yeah,
this bumper sticker I saw. It says, "I bought this before Elon went crazy," or something like
yeah,
that.
exactly. Well, and that brings up. his antics, and that's the best way you can describe him at this point. That's being charitable. His antics up to this point would suggest to me that he is he is besmirching, for want of a better term, he's tainting the good name of Tesla.
Hmm.
Right? Because of, you get more and more, the sales are collapsing in Europe. And that's not me. Like I mentioned to you in an earlier email, just go on to EV World to the search engine there on the right below our video, and just type in Tesla and see what pops up in the last 10 searches. I mean, it's just they're having some serious branding problems because of what he's doing. So I am wondering whether because they're great products, but you've got this guy who is clearly causing issues for lots of people now.
Hmm.
Um, that maybe it's time that they take a look and the board get a little proactive and active here and think about getting him out of the position of having anything to do with the Tesla electric car brand. If he wants to do his robots, fine. If he wants to go to space, that's fine. If he wants to bore holes under Las Vegas, that's fine. But as far as the Tesla brand, I think it ought to go back to Martin and Mark, and go back to the guys that created the damn thing, and get yeah, Musk, sure, he's done a lot, and he's risked
Hmm.
a lot to get the thing to where it is. But boy, has he gone off the deep end here. So, I mean, I want that brand to survive, and at the rate they're going right now, I have my doubts. I really do.
Yeah. Well, I think a lot of us have always considered Musk to be the mad genius. You
Now,
know.
mad, certainly mad.
Yeah.
Genius, you know, he's very good about the people he hires. That's for sure. Although I'm not
Mhm.
quite sure about hiring, guys that are under 25 years of age to go into the federal checkbook and and start playing around and snooping around, for people's passwords and things like that. This crap that happened, last Saturday night. So those nope. He's overstepped his bound. He's as people have found, he's want to come visit you and stay longer than you want him to stay. And, and this is what he's doing with the federal government. Oh, I spent $275 million on your campaign. Let me run the government for you. That isn't how it works, Elon. That's not how it works. It might work at Twitter, and look how well they're doing right now.
Mhm.
So anyway, I'm venting, and but this is, I want that brand to survive. I love that brand. It's done so much for the world of electric vehicles. And all that's happening now is we're just seeing people being turned off by it because of what he's doing. That's
Well,
my
we'll
view.
see how this plays out. No, I'm with you. So we've been on here, or at least I've been promoting my idea for a sovereign wealth fund for the United States.
Right,
And
right.
here Trump stole my idea today. Okay, or at least, or sometime in the last 24 hours. And I really don't know what to think. That was going to be part of my political platform in 28. I
Right.
was thinking about running as an independent. I keep forgetting I was born in Germany, so that makes it tough to run for president. But you know, still, you
Yeah,
just
but your parents were American, right?
not when my dad was, my mom wasn't.
Well, same here. My dad is an American citizen. My mother's a German, so we share that in common.
Yeah,
I have no.
I'm not sure about my eligibility's always been in question. But anyways, that being said, I had seen where a couple of senators from both sides of the aisle had proposed this. I went looking it up. It was back in 23. So it was a couple of years ago that were proposing the sovereign wealth fund idea as a
Mhm.
way to shore up Social Security.
Right.
Now, the TikTok news, I'm like, Yeah, unless the thing is, a lot of these social media companies, when they go public for enormous sums of money. Maybe they're thinking something like that, but the idea of a sovereign wealth fund for the United States is it should be the money should be specific to solving some problems the country has, and Social Security is a
Right.
huge one coming in right now. I
Not
realize this doesn't.
not buying TikTok.
Well, that one's kind of a weird one. So my thought was more along the lines of what Jigger Shaw was doing for the Department of Energy, running the Loan
Mhm.
Program Office,
Right.
would be something where they're stimulating American manufacturing,
Yep.
different things, using American natural resources. Because this is basically how countries like Norway and Saudi Arabia. So you look at um, the, the Saudis. Now, obviously, we all know they get their money from oil, right? But what have
Yep.
they done with that money that they have in their sovereign wealth fund? They've invested in Lucid. They've invested in Rivian. They've invested in a whole lot of things in the green energy
Yep.
space.
Well,
Now,
lots of
it's a
lots of
minuscule
solar.
amount of money to them. Okay, it's been a tiny amount of money to them compared to what they bring in. But I'm just saying they're doing other things.
Yep.
Um, and they're bringing manufacturing to Saudi Arabia. Lucid's
Oh yeah.
building factories there to
Yep.
make cars in the Middle East, and that's something unique. They're going to have stuff other than oil. Saudi Arabia sees the writing on the wall. They need to diversify their economy to some extent, and good for them. And the United States, I think this is something reasonable. The United States has a few times, back in when the car industry and everything, when we had the financial crisis from 2007 to about 2010,
Hmm.
the federal government went in and they actually made like 8 of the largest banks. Well, some of them needed the money for they call it the bailout, but it was a loan. All of those banks paid that money back with interest. Some of them didn't even want the money. The federal government said, you really have to take it because
Yeah.
we do not feel you're going to make it without it. And it worked out. And now Ford didn't take the money at that time, but GM and Chrysler, which is now Stellantis, took the
Right.
money. And Chrysler, still exists as part of Stellantis. I mean, it didn't completely work
Yeah.
out, but the government got paid back on that. Okay, and made a little money. Probably not huge interest rates or anything like that, but they made money. And the thing is, if there's ways that the federal government can help, because I say on this show all the time, look, we're here to talk about EVs. We want to see the big three making EVs. We also don't want to see them go out of business because we know that they're important for the American economy. And so at the same time, I think it's important to do things that shore up those institutions because it's not easy for them, that there's as many financial institutions that can go out and back those companies.
Right.
So I think there's things to be done. When we had when Jigger Shaw was talking about things the Loan Program Office has done, they've made money. They've lent money to Tesla, Ford, GM, and Stellantis, and a lot of other places. He was saying that what they do, 1,300 loans and grants in 4 years. I mean, it was a crazy number.
Yeah.
But I'm just
Yeah.
saying the sovereign wealth fund. So, but the things that he was doing were all related to clean energy. The sovereign wealth fund could be involved in other things, everything from steel production, shipbuilding. I mean, there's so many things that just aren't made here in the United States anymore that I think are critical. Now, speaking of that, let's go and let's talk about rare earth elements. So there was some
Right.
news today about Trump supporting Ukraine, but he wants access to rare earth elements. And some of that is because he put tariffs on China in the last couple of days. And China responded by saying, we're going to
Oh, that's fine.
restrict the rare earth
Yep.
elements. Well, lo and
Right.
behold, what war going on in the world right now seems to be over a patch of land that has a bunch of rare earth elements. And that's not
Uh-huh.
talked about much. But the Russia-Ukraine war, I know that in the Donbass, I think is where a lot of this is, right?
Well, the search that I did, I think it said is Azuz area, something like that. So I don't know if that's
Okay.
part of the Donbass or not. I don't know enough about Ukrainian, geography to tell you. But I did, this because this became obviously an issue politically. So I said, well, I've heard rumors that there's, rare earth elements there, but tell me specifically. So I went into one of my search, one of the AI chatbots and asked it a question, and it gave me back an answer. It showed, okay, here are the rare earth elements, and Dixon, that there was a guy that I listened to occasionally comments on things having to do with Tesla, and he was
Hmm.
commenting about this, and he was talking about, well, the reason they want it is because of rare earth, and that's because they have all this lithium. And I thought, no, they don't. I mean, there might be some, but it's
Oh, no,
not
there's
like it's not like Australia or the Altiplano in Chile and Argentina, where you can scrape it up off the ground or you can get it out of the Salton Sea. It's not the same. And in fact, I saw no when I asked it, I saw no reference actually to lithium in Ukraine. Now there could be, but
I've
they did.
seen previous stories that said that the largest deposit in Europe is in Ukraine, and it's in
That
the
might
war
be,
zone.
but
But that
the
being
A,
said,
the AI is not
lithium's not
aware of
rare
that.
earth. But
No,
lithium's not rare earth. It's really
exactly.
common, and we have enough in Nevada that we don't need it. That we don't need
Right,
lithium from
right.
Ukraine.
Yeah, that's the rare earth are called lanthanides, and there's a second. There are 17 rare earth elements, 15 of which are called lanthanides on the periodic table, and there's another group called, I think, sulfidides or something like that. So, but it's not lithium. So what we're talking about, the main one that I saw in there that I'm aware of is neodymium, which neodymium is the rare earth element that is used to make these very powerful magnets. And those are the magnets that have traditionally been used in electric motors, everything from giant wind turbines to the hard drives that power your computer or power your little you know quadcopter. So neodymium is a very important one, but lithium isn't one of them there. So
No, because it's not a rare earth.
it's not a rare earth, right? I know they may have it, but it's not a rare earth.
That's a misconception about lithium is people think that we have to get it from China, but
No,
51%, more than 51% of all the world's lithium mining is done in Australia. And and it's probably has a lot to do with maybe their rules or whatever, but there's a lot of lithium there, but there's a lot of lithiums all over the planet.
yeah,
It's not
yeah,
unique. We and one of the loans that Jigger Shaw talked about was a loan for extracting lithium from that big deposit in Nevada,
right, yeah.
and
Thatcher
there
Mountain, I think it is.
I can't remember the name of
Yeah, I
the
think it's Thatcher
location.
Mountain, Thatcher Pass. It's
Yeah.
actually it's actually the remnant of a giant super volcano.
Okay.
Yeah,
So, and he also talked about, all the lithium that's in the Salton Sea in
yeah,
California.
yeah.
So they're, it's not that rare. It's just a matter of, like a lot of other things, we're just not set up to do it.
No,
The
because
U.S.
we could always get it cheaper from China, or we could get it cheaper from South America, from Chile and Argentina.
Yeah, China prioritized a lot of these things and spent money on infrastructure to be pulling this stuff up, and you know, so we buy it there. It's just easier and cheaper, and some of that, like I was saying earlier, some of that needs to change. I like this one, europium.
Yeah, europium. Yeah,
It sounds more like a drug. Um,
yeah. Maybe
but
back down. Show the. Is this on the EV World page? Yeah. So maybe
yeah,
just go
we're
back
on
to the top and show people what we're talking about. So yeah, so that's the I call AI Insights, and this is just spit out from the chat bot that I use. In this particular case, this comes out of the Google Studio AI chatbot.
okay. But the rare earths are in all kinds of things: smartphones, computers,
Yeah,
TVs. wind turbines, solar panels,
Yep.
EV motors and batteries, missile guidance systems, radar and lasers, MRI machines. Let's see. But Trump was saying today he wants to secure relations for pulling rare earth and selling it to the United States in exchange for being able to keep getting weapons support. And I don't think that's a real big ask. I mean, I'm sure they're happy
Well,
to
they're happy to
sell it.
give it to us. Yeah, absolutely. I
Yeah.
think, and of course, uh, I question whether he even knows what rare earths actually are and how they're used. I think some staffer probably briefed him, "Hey, Elon needs this stuff for his cars. Here's your leverage with Zelensky. Ask for that we get exclusive rights to all the rare earths. Oh, okay, whatever the hell those are.
Well, it is what it is, man.
It is what it is.
Um, let's see here, but it does make for interesting thoughts because apparently the regions that are being fought over are incredibly resource rich.
Oh yeah, yeah.
Yeah. The thing is, one of the criticisms I've never really liked about all the money that we've given to Ukraine is that we haven't really been like handing over cash. We've mostly been shipping them weapons
Sur-
that
sur- surplus
we're
weapons.
constantly replacing. Yeah,
Right,
we
right.
we store all kinds of weapons that aren't in use anymore, and so like we sent them older M1s tanks. We
Well,
and we sent them a lot of older stuff. We haven't even sent them the most modern, equipment, and either stuff that we were getting rid of or retiring or mothballing.
yeah.
So I I don't know. But you look at the Russians. The Russians have been pulling all this old Soviet stuff. I mean, they're pulling
They they
tanks out
are
from the 1950s.
they are actually those yards, because we have satellite images of all that, all
Hmm.
that stuff, and you compare, one period of time to the most recent period of time, and those storage yards are empty. They're empty, and you look at the equipment that's being fielded right now and trying to attack Ukrainian lines and things. You're right. It's all 1950s Soviet era stuff. I mean, we're almost back to the what was that? The
We're
Russian.
seeing we're seeing T-54 and T-55s
Right, but
being
what was
used.
the one
Both
before
sides.
that? Yeah,
You're not talking about like T-34s or something from World War
yeah,
II.
yeah. T-34s from World War II. I mean, obviously
No, we're
they're
not
not
going to see that.
they're not there, but Korean War vintage and up. Yeah.
I remember when there was a thing with the rebels doing stuff, and back in like 2014, that somewhere there was a piece. There was an IS-3 Soviet tank from World War II that was on some pedestal, as a display, and they got
Right.
it functioning and used it in combat. And it was the largest tank
Yeah.
the Soviets made in World
Uh,
War II, and yeah, and
well,
it's gotten
and
used.
how things have changed because I was watching a YouTube video yesterday, highlighting a particular Ukrainian battle group and their use of drones, and it's just it's just heartbreaking. I mean, I they fly these little things, quadcopter, like the quadcopter I have over here. They fly that thing over there, and there's a hatch open, you know, and they fly down in it, or they drop the grenade or whatever it is, the mortar shell. They drop it right in the hatch of this thing, and I'm thinking, oh dear God, please don't let there be anybody inside. Yet those guys have gotten, they it's completely changed how warfare uh, is being fought today. And just like the introduction of the tank in World War One, and airplanes in World War One, this is completely changing the face of it. And it's just, I'm heartsick. I just, to see these things exploding and flames gushing out of them, and Some of them are obviously manned.
Hmm.
There was one of the shots where there was a battalion. I think it was like 7 or 8. It was led by a tank, and then 7 behind that were 7 armored personnel carriers, Russian personnel carriers. And they hit the first one with a drone, the tank with a drone to slow it up. And then they slowed the column up. And then these British-made anti-tank missiles took one out after another, out after another, out after. And it was just that whole line of equipment was destroyed, and all the people with it. And it's sickening. It's heartbreaking. It's
Oh, it
war.
is.
It's
It's just
and
hard to fathom this keeps going on and on.
and
I
on and
saw
on.
some crazy statistic that says that this year the Ukrainian um, manufacturing expects to produce 4 million drones.
Oh yeah. Well,
I mean,
look what's happening to the oil refineries deep inside of Russia now. It's not the ones within a 20 kilometer radius of the
mhm,
border. These things are hundreds of kilometers inside Russia, and some of them are the biggest refineries that the Russians have. It's completely changed, the nature of, and then they swarm. They'll do a swarm, and that'll distract the what air defense systems they may have, and then the other ones sneak in from behind and take out whatever it is the target is, be it an oil refinery, be it an ammunition depot, whatever.
yeah, it's just wild to think that they're making that kind of quantity. I mean,
Oh, I know.
350,000 drones a month. I mean, they're making 10,000 plus a day.
Yeah,
And I'm sure they're going through them. I'm sure they're getting
yeah,
destroyed, or whatever. But you got to imagine the Russians are making a similar quantity too. And so that airspace, just all the
well,
drones, it's got to
yeah.
be just nuts.
Now, what I've heard, and I can't verify, and I don't know, is that we want to launch, in effect, a raids across the border into Mexico to hit the cartels. And apparently, the cartels are arming themselves with drones.
Yeah.
So,
Well, I've often wondered because I don't think the cartels are as much a bunch of thugs. I'm sure they have a lot of former experienced ex-military from lots of countries,
yeah,
you know, serving. Not saying it's like the French Foreign Legion, but I'm sure
right.
you know, it's a much higher level than what.
Guys that addicted adrenaline and good prices and fast women, right?
There you go. There you go.
So, yeah.
All right. Well, we'll move on from
Moving on.
our rant on Trump stealing my brilliant
Oh,
idea for the sovereign wealth fund.
I can
But
rant a lot more, but we won't do that.
no. All right. Let's see. Um, we'll go something completely non-political. Um, Ford Mach E owners drive more than the average American
Yeah,
and still don't come close to using all of their range. Now that's kind of interesting. So the average Mach E owner must not be a 7,000-8,000 mile a year driver. The average Mach E driver drives 66 miles per day on a typical weekday, which does make it too far for just a plug-in hybrid to not use
right,
all electric.
right,
Um, and that's so 37 miles a day is the national average, which coincidentally it's also the average plug-in hybrid battery.
right,
It
right,
seems to be the magic number is 37, right?
right.
And it's kind of funny. So that's the number on plug-in hybrids, but on the Mach E, it's 66 miles per day. So what would that be? So 5 work days would be 330 miles. That would use up the whole charge, right? If you were um, the longest range version is 320 miles. Um, let's see. The basic standard has a 250-mile range. So the daily drive is using a quarter of the battery's capacity, but their long range is 320.
Right.
Still,
So I think that the point of the article was that you can drive almost an entire week if you're a Mach-E owner, and depending if you drive that 66 miles a day average, you can drive almost an entire week and never have to plug the car in. It's
mhm,
almost like you're driving a gas car where you fill it up once a week, right? Same concept here. So that's a plus. I mean, that's significant progress. Now,
it
of course,
is. It is.
assuming unless they live in an apartment, where you don't have easy access to, plugging it in. Hopefully, you might have something at work. So if you, but I'm assuming most of the people live at home in suburbia, have a garage, have at least, one 10 outlet, and possibly level 2 charging capability.
Well, I think more and more places, more and more jobs need to have charging in the work parking lots.
Yeah,
It's because that would really solve the problem
yeah,
for a lot of people who have to commute if they don't have decent charging,
yeah. And we actually
locations at home.
Yeah, we actually have some businesses here in Omaha that have that. One of the first that I saw was the National Park Service downtown.
Hmm.
They had one this wow, this was 15, 20 years ago. They had plugs out in the parking lot where you could plug in an electric vehicle. It was 110, but if you're there 8, 10 hours a day, that's fine. But now I'm starting to see there are more businesses. There's an orthopedic company here in town that's got chargers. The local electrical workers union has chargers out front for its people. Um, there's the Cabela's here in town has kind of far away. It's off the corner of the lot, but it has chargers as well. So we're starting to see more and more that where businesses are getting. Oh, I think the local Harley dealer, as a matter of fact, has a chargers in its
They do.
front
I know
parking.
somebody
Yeah,
who lives in their EV and uses that
yeah,
one.
yeah. So
So that yeah, I know the Harley dealer I think is free. So I think
yeah,
they're a free charger. Yeah. So I'm just saying, it's just one of those things. It's not a huge cost really for the employer, even like
no,
you're saying, even if they had just level one charging, you're adding about 4 miles of range every hour
yeah.
approximately, you know, and for most people that work for 8 hours and you add 30 miles of range to your
Well,
car,
yeah. When
that's
when
pretty
I
considerable.
Yeah, when I worked, for a company here in town, it was 12 miles one way. I could have, if they'd had a charger there, I could have. Of course, I didn't have an EV at the time. I had a Honda Insight Hybrid, which got 60
Mhm.
miles to the gallon. So, it
Right.
wasn't like it's a big deal. But, if I were still
It was
working there and had
sipping
my
fuel.
EV, yeah, I was just sipping fuel. Yeah.
All right, let's see. Let's see what we should move on to next. There was an interesting article talking about cattle, saying they want to stop calling them EVs and
Moo?
start calling them
Oh,
EIVs, cattle.
that kind of.
Yeah, yeah, that kind of cattle. Yeah,
Okay.
yeah, the Chinese CATL,
Right, right.
whose name
Battery
will
company.
not, yeah, the whole name will not be named. Yeah, the company the Nebraska pronunciation is cattle, folks. So
Right.
if you're
Yeah.
from Nebraska, you call it cattle. If you're from California, you might call it CATL or something else. But
Right.
here we call it cattle. Anyways, but they're talking
Well, at
about
least
how they need to call it an electric intelligent vehicle.
yeah, yeah,
This is what they want to call the Chinese made cars.
yeah.
So it was really kind of in reference to the Xiaomi SU7. And one of the big pieces of this was the fact that it's designed to control things in your home too.
Smart
So,
home connection. Yeah.
I
What was
mean,
it? Was like
in reality, is that really much different than a cell phone? I mean, they are a cell phone maker, right?
yeah. So what? I mean, it was like what 1,200 things in the home it would control, some crazy number like that.
Yeah, if you had all of those crazy attachments in your
Right.
house. Um, let's see.
Feed your goldfish right. Check your security cameras.
Yeah, and it's still it's funny to think that this is what, like a $35,000 car,
Yeah.
and you look at this, it's like, damn, no wonder they've sold 100,000 of these.
Yeah, and it's a nice looking car. Well, it's basically a rip off of a Porsche
Right.
Taycan, but
Yeah.
still, it's yeah,
Jim Farley brought one from China back to, I think, Chicago, was
and he
driving
didn't
around, or
and he didn't want to give it back.
yeah, yeah, he really liked it. I mean, he's like, this is real, folks. I mean, the
Yeah,
Chinese threat in the automotive space is way more real than people want to admit. But it's
but
just,
that being said, I posted an article today that this invasion of Chinese EVs into Europe is not going so well. So, did we? Have you seen that one?
I've not yet. Hold on
Okay,
just a second. I was
okay,
going to tell you. So the Xiaomi can remotely control over 1,000 home devices,
yeah,
integrating
that's what it
advanced
was.
connectivity and home automation. Also, it has driver assistance provided by 11 cameras, 12 ultrasonic radars, LiDAR, and the services of the NVIDIA Drive Orin platform.
Yeah.
Didn't realize, that NVIDIA was providing all that stuff for cars. And what was the article you were mentioning?
Oh, that the Chinese of late, within the last 2 years, the Chinese quote invasion of Europe has basically stalled. They were making all kinds of wonderful progress in like 2022, 21, 22 timeframe, and the
Mhm.
last couple of years, they've run into issues with slumping demand, which is in fact, guys like Tesla as well, slumping demand, and of course, then the imposition of these uh, tariffs that are being placed on them. So
Oh yeah.
it's not a runaway invasion at this point. They're having a little more difficult time of it.
So Chinese producers have gained an 8.5% share. Now I'm assuming this 8.5% share though is all Chinese cars, not just electric and plug-in hybrid. So I'm
Well,
going to
that I
assume
don't. That I do not know. Yeah.
um, but yeah, they're saying MG is down 3.5%, but they're being MG's being hit with a tariff as high as 45%.
Yeah.
Um, MG has lost the scepter of being the best-selling Chinese electric car in Europe. BYD, let me see, tariffs are 17% higher than the normal 10%. So I don't know if that's specific to Chinese cars, or, but if they have a normal 10% tariff on just cars in general.
Yeah.
Um,
The MG one has always confused me because as us old timers will remember the MG sports cars, right?
mhm.
I used to have one long, long time ago. MG. MG stands for Morris Garage. And these are guys that grew up out of the, Titanic era, the 1920s and 30s era, that era of motor cars. And at some point along the line, I think they were building them in India at some point. And there's an MG out of India, but then again, somehow or another, the Chinese, like many things, ended up, acquiring the rights to it, and that's the car. It's a well-reviewed automobile, that's for sure. But not sure when all that transformation took place.
All right, I got one more topic
Okay.
I want to talk about. This one's kind of funny because we've discussed it a little bit before, but it's Pepsi and Tesla semi trucks.
Ah,
And
yes,
I've had
right.
people like, they're just hauling potato chips, but Pepsi says they're
Oh,
hauling soft drinks, you
right.
know, and the guy's trying to, somebody's trying to argue. It's like, potato chips are basically an empty van or whatever. And it's like,
Yeah.
no, no. That's
No.
not what they're doing. They're hauling
What?
sodas.
Probably what? Liter bottles and aluminum, 8-ounce aluminum cans, and
I'm sure it's a
as
mix.
well. Yeah.
Um, so Tesla has only delivered a limited number of electric semi trucks, and most of them are believed to be in Pepsi's fleet in Sacramento. It's been completely electrified and is also solar powered. Well, that's interesting. So I'm assuming the charging is solar powered. I'm
Right.
assuming
Yeah.
they're not
Yeah.
they're not putting panels on the trucks.
Probably on top
Um,
of the bottling building, they got solar racks.
so they use most of the 21 Tesla semi-electric trucks for deliveries within 100 miles with several stops. They operate for up to 12 hours per day. Let's see, 3 of the Tesla semi-trucks are dedicated to long haul with routes that vary between 250 and 450 miles. They've been installing 750 kilowatt mega chargers at PepsiCo facilities. They enable charging to 80% capacity in 45 minutes.
Wow.
That's that's not
That's
terrible at
like
all.
turning on a fire hose. Wow.
Yeah. Um, wouldn't want to accidentally get shocked by that cable.
No, that would curl your hair. That's for sure.
um, Pepsi noted the difficulty of installing that much charging power at the facility and said they will use what they learned from this to plan for future depots that will be electrified. I probably should have saved this for a Mike story because
Yes.
that
Yeah.
that'd be the thing, because Mike's been experienced with when like Amazon's going in somewhere and they want to charge 200 electric vans, and how do you get the grid set up to get all the
Yeah.
transformers and
Yeah.
everything to support all that, because that's a lot of pull.
Yeah.
um,
I drive by that occasionally. Here of late, I've been going over on a Sunday afternoon to help our local EAA chapter put together an experimental airplane. And to do that, I drive right by the Amazon facility, and there are dozens and dozens of Rivian delivery vans. In fact, when I was coming back Sunday night, I had 2 of them that were headed back into the stable, I guess you would call it, to get plugged in. So yeah, I don't. That's a huge facility. I'd be interested to. Well, and there, if I'm not mistaken, there's actually a big substation near there. So maybe that
Now,
counts
Pepsi's
for it.
also found some ways to improve efficiency of how much, how many miles are going for the amount of energy.
Mhm.
So they're saying they have an efficiency of 1.7 kilowatt hours per mile. Now, notice when we talk about cars, it's like the Tesla cars,
4 or
and
5,
like
right?
yeah, it's like 3.5 kilowatt or 3.5 miles per kilowatt
Miles per
hour.
kilowatt. Yeah,
This is the opposite. It's taking almost 2 kilowatts to go a
right.
mile. Yeah, so it's not as energy efficient as a car, but that's because you're talking something that's enormous and weighs as
Huge.
much as 20 cars, right?
Yeah, yeah,
So it's a big difference there, but that's where they're at efficiency wise. One of the things they've noticed is when going up and down the Donner Pass in Nevada,
mm,
the Tesla Semi regenerates a lot of energy from the regenerative braking.
right. Remember, that's the story we had about the dump truck, right? That goes up to the top of the mountain and then comes back down, fully
Mhm.
loaded with whatever it's hauling, and they never have to charge it apparently
Yeah. So
because it uses less energy to go up the mountain.
the off-peak rate for electricity in Sacramento is 14 cents per kilowatt hour, and it results in a 23% fuel cost reduction over the most efficient diesel trucks.
Mm,
That's a pretty big deal when you start talking about how much fuel those
yeah,
organizations use, because that's, other than the trucks themselves and the driver, you know, fuel's probably, I don't know, fuel's probably a bigger expense than either of, I don't know if it's more bigger expense than the driver, but it's probably bigger expense than the vehicle itself. So that's a pretty big deal. Anyways, Bill, that's all I really have to cover for today.
Okay. Well, again,
and
there's much more that you can find on EV World, and in particular, if you follow our RSS feed, what I call RS Stream, I upload news stories. I think I've done something like 40 or 50 stories already this morning. So there's lots of news out there. We only touch the tip of the iceberg, the kind of the more fun stuff to talk about.
right, no, I get it. I get it. Anyways, folks, thanks for chiming in today, and I'll be back with engineer Mike Herzog tomorrow.
Right.
Otherwise, folks, have a great